Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is being pushed to the brink. Israel's core defenses are cracking as 20 military bases are destroyed and hundreds of soldiers fall. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World Insight. The Middle East is now plunging deeper into a violent vortex of war. Every development on the battlefield is sending shockwaves straight into the heart of Israel's power structure. A series of relentless strikes has wiped out 20 key military installations, severely shaking the defense system and pushing the country into an unprecedented state of tension. Amid this chaos, reports of hundreds of casualties are not just a reflection of military losses, they reveal a battlefield gradually slipping beyond the control of command. At the center of this political storm stands Benjamin Netanyahu, as calls for surrender begin to surface openly and spread across international media. Pressure is mounting from all directions: battlefield setbacks, internal divisions, and global opinion, placing Israel's leadership in a situation never before seen in its political history. Meanwhile, Iran continues to launch calculated, systemic responses, targeting strategic vulnerabilities and gradually reshaping the regional balance. Each move carries not only military weight but also a powerful message: a rapid shift in power is underway. As both war and politics are pushed to their limits, a new phase of the conflict has truly begun. Netanyahu is being cornered. Calls for surrender send shockwaves across the world. The battlefield is exploding with intensity. Hundreds of soldiers are down, and 20 strategic targets have been erased in a coordinated sequence of strikes. These numbers do not merely represent losses, they expose a harsh reality: the situation is spiraling beyond control. For the first time, the word surrender is being spoken openly in global political forums and media outlets. Pressure is no longer purely military. It has evolved into a full-scale crisis, where political credibility erodes alongside battlefield setbacks. The image of an overwhelmingly dominant Israel is being replaced by a far more fragile and strained reality. Every decision now carries the weight to reshape the region. And once surrender becomes a public conversation, it is no longer just a shocking phrase, it becomes a signal that the war has entered an entirely new stage, where old limits no longer apply. Former U.S. President Donald Trump exposes cracks in alliances as partners begin to pull away. A political earthquake erupts as the Middle East conflict escalates. Donald Trump openly criticizes key allies, including South Korea, Japan, and Australia, for staying out of the confrontation with Iran. His statement strikes directly at the alliance system Washington has spent decades building. Tens of thousands of U.S. troops remain stationed in these countries under the banner of regional security. Yet when conflict erupts, the support Washington expects appears hesitant. The gap between commitment and action becomes painfully clear, shaking trust within the alliance. What was once seen as a unified shield now shows deep fractures. As pressure rises, nations begin recalculating their own interests, questioning the cost of being drawn deeper into conflict. The alliance begins to fragment. From a single statement, the strategic landscape shifts. Allies hesitate, Washington applies more pressure, and Tehran seizes every moment to strengthen its position. The conflict is no longer confined to the battlefield, it is unfolding within the trust between nations. Iran strikes at economic pillars, turning war into more than just military confrontation. The conflict escalates as three of Iran's largest steel hubs, Mobarakeh, Isfahan, and Khuzestan, are struck almost simultaneously. These centers account for nearly 70% of the country's steel production, forming the backbone of its industrial economy. This is not just an attack, it is a strike at the nation's economic lifeline. Steel underpins infrastructure, defense, and exports. Targeting all three centers sends a clear message: long-term pressure over short-term damage. But on the ground, Iran responds differently. Production systems are decentralized, supply chains are reinforced with contingency plans, and recovery mechanisms are activated immediately. Instead of collapsing, the industrial system adapts and continues operating under pressure. More importantly, Tehran responds quickly. Counterattacks target similar sectors: energy, industry, showing a shift from defense to strategic balance. The war is expanding into the economic domain, where factories and supply lines become strategic targets. War spreads into water and education systems, breaking all limits. Critical water infrastructure in Khuzestan is hit, disrupting supply for millions. At the same time, major academic institutions, including Isfahan University of Technology and Tehran University of Technology, are drawn into the conflict. Lecture halls and laboratories, once centers of knowledge, are now engulfed in smoke. This signals a deeper level of conflict, targeting not just the present, but the future of a nation. Yet Iran responds swiftly. Emergency measures ensure water supply continuity, and education systems adapt under crisis conditions. The battlefield is no longer limited to military zones, it now penetrates every layer of society. Even United Nations peacekeepers become casualties. In Lebanon, a devastating strike hits a UN peacekeeping zone. 3 Indonesian soldiers are killed, triggering global outrage. Antonio Guterres condemns the attack, calling it a violation of international law. But the reality is clear: war has surpassed all established boundaries. Safe zones no longer exist. Iran launches region-wide counterstrikes, expanding the battlefield across the Gulf. Missiles, ballistic weapons, and drones appear across the skies of the UAE, Bahrain, and Qatar. Industrial hubs burn in Abu Dhabi, ports are paralyzed in Bahrain, and ships are sunk in strategic waters. Iran demonstrates coordinated, multi-directional warfare, forcing opponents to disperse their defenses. The message is unmistakable: Tehran is seizing control of the conflict's tempo. The war spirals beyond control as the world faces a new shockwave. Casualties surge. Millions are displaced. Economic losses reach tens of billions of dollars. Oil prices fluctuate, supply chains are disrupted, and inflation spreads globally. The United States increases its military presence, preparing for prolonged confrontation. Meanwhile, Iran retains significant missile capacity, maintaining its ability to respond. The conflict is no longer regional, it is global in impact. A chilling warning from Donald Trump shakes the world. Trump declares the possibility of wiping out an entire Iranian civilization in one night. A statement that sends shockwaves through the UK Parliament. Iran is not a fragile entity, it is a civilization spanning over 2,000 years. Threatening its destruction challenges not only a nation, but the foundations of international order. The UK Parliament erupts, with lawmakers calling Trump a global threat, even comparing him to a gangster. This marks a rare and extreme breakdown in diplomatic language between allies. Transatlantic cracks deepen as London begins distancing itself from Washington. British leaders reassess their alignment, signaling a shift in strategic thinking. The once solid alliance shows visible fractures as trust erodes. Iran emerges as a central geopolitical pivot, not just a target, but a symbol of resistance against overwhelming pressure. The Strait of Hormuz becomes a flashpoint. Tensions rise sharply as blockade plans are viewed as a spark that could ignite a much larger war.